ready to cause harm to anyone. Whereas Anaya, her scars may be the most visible, but she's suppressed by her anger. She holds her inside. And I would love to know what message did you want audiences to take away when it comes to the differences in handling trauma?
Yeah, well, when I wrote these characters, I wasn't thinking message at all, right? It was really like, what is activating them? What are their given circumstances? What are they moving through? But I do think it's worthwhile to sit with the fact that the difference in the way that these young women responded to trauma is the reason for like the bifurcation of their relationship. And I also want them to sit with what it costs the person who's seeking revenge to seek revenge, because I think that if the response to a harm is to go and cause harm, then it could be re-traumatizing, right? So I don't write lessons, and I'm not trying to moralize with this story, but I wonder if it's useful for people to sit with like what Anaya needed to learn, because I don't think that she's right. I don't think that she's good while her sister is bad. I think there's a lot of complexity, and I do think she needed to learn how to speak up for herself, how to defend herself, and she does that, and she defends her sister. So yeah, so there's a lot I think to sit with. What do you think, Erica?
I think she's a stone cold killer. I mean, really, because I was listening to this going, finding out that she seemingly had killed before.
See?
Well, that's how it sounded to me. I don't know about y'all.
Well, but yes, but the way that she killed, the murder that she committed was that she said that her stepfather, or one of her adopted fathers, would come down the stairs. What did she say? He eats it. Oh, okay, okay. Or she got to whoop it. There we go. Okay. She did bad things to make him whoop her, and he had a heart attack. So that's the way she killed him, was by being bad, so getting
Lunacy,
punished.
man.
It's not a real murder. I guess my point is that's not real.
Okay.
That's her. It's not real. It's not real. Like taking. She definitely did, but
But I know men like that who say, beat me, sort of to prove that you're not going to break them. And it's a powerful thing to give to a girl that small. And imagine the beating she took.
For
So in
sure.
a way, she has this callus on her heart. I get it, but she's also very dangerous. She's got that trait, what, from the DNA of her father. They're their father's children.
She comes from a man who tried to kill their mother, whose mother now wants to kill that man.
That's right.
Exact verbiage. And I'm glad you brought up, knowing different types of men who want to goad women into trying them so that they can prove their power. Obviously, this film comes at a time where we've unfortunately seen a lot of Black femicide in the headlines. We've unfortunately seen story after story of Black men harming Black women with their own hands, harming their children with their own hands. And I'm wondering if current events at all make you rethink the narrative now and rethink the story. Does it recontextualize it in a way given what's been happening lately?
I What's been happening lately has been happening for a long time. This story is a decade old. It was happening then. It will happen tomorrow, unfortunately. So I know that we don't exist in a vacuum. So I do think it's this is something that I just left another Q&A and a question that I posed about what it means to have a story where certainly as Black people, it means something to us to watch, a story in which there are these acts of violence being committed, right? But there's also something about wanting to tell a story, which I did as a storyteller. That's just kind of kick ass. That's just fun, right? So I think that it's more complex for us. It's more complicated, and I don't have an actual like answer. I don't have the perfect answer, but I do think that there's a conversation to be had, and I hope that people will have the conversation. Um, yeah, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, it's a very complex conversation, and no matter how you have it, people are disappointed, um, because we want to take sides. We also want to defend and also protect, and that makes sense. But if in this world, the Black men are the niggas, then Black women are the niggas of the niggas, and that's just what it is. So that's what you see. Hey, the myth was created. It's a thing. we look at, how mythology works, you can also live down to those expectations. Sterling K. Brown plays it very well,
Oh man.
for sure.
Right? Didn't he do it? He did.
Yeah. He didn't do it. Dead, gone. But he doesn't represent all black men at all. That's not what it is. This is a story about this particular situation. But if we can talk about the crazy amount of trauma that's been laid upon black peoples for hundreds of years, where did it go? How is it supposed to manifest? And said, you got this Frankenstein monster, and Sterling K is playing it, and that's why he plays it so well. He's so gorgeous. He moves like a panther. You want to admire him. They took somebody who was inherently in America's mind, one of the fathers of America, where we believe in him. He was in This Is Us. He's, in American Fiction and all these other. He's in Paradise saving the world. Yeah, there's beating down people. Paradise. I mean, he worse than this stuff. Remember how I think he worse than this stuff, but we know those types, and we know they exist, and to be underneath them is a scary thing. And we don't have to tell every story to tell this story. We don't have to continue to always, qualify it. We know it's real. We're grown ups. We know how difficult this world is, and certainly black men do because they've been oppressed by them. Their own sons were oppressed by him. McKelty Williamson tore out his tongue. He's up there getting beat down, waiting for the beat down. It was nuts. I love this movie. Yeah. Yeah.
There were, I mean, so many chaotic moments in this, delightfully and deliciously chaotic moments in this movie. But I'm really happy that you two brought up Sterling because I was telling some people earlier, the minute I saw that Sperry hit the pavement, I said, oh, the minute I saw his foot touch the ground, I said, it's over with. You have got to go. The thing about his portrayal that really sticks out to me and has stuck out to me for the last however many hours it's been since I last saw this movie is the fact that exactly like you said, he's so likable. He's so tender, as they say in the film. He's so charismatic.
Oh,
His
he was
smile.
laying there and his ass was the camera. I just kept looking at his butt. Shame is evil. You know what? I was like magnificent.
Even though he left you in Ezekiel, you were still feeling magnificent about it. That's so funny.
Well, yeah, that's
I think this portrayal is very important to show because oftentimes we can get deceived by the likability. We can get swept up in the charisma and the charm, so much so that exactly like what happened to Anaya, we let our guard down a bit too low and a bit too quickly because it took nothing for her to reconsider the narrative. Even though her mother had already told her what happened, it only took her a few seconds to start rethinking, well, maybe my mother was wrong. And I feel like that has a lot to do with the charisma and the charm that Sterling had. Why was that important to play up in this movie?
So the script in the script, what I wrote was that when we finally see the man's face, it's like Obama. He's meant to be this very charming man who moved to the burbs and tried to paper over all the things that he did. Right. I thought that in terms of the narrative, I thought that that was just a delicious choice. It's subversive. It's surprising. It's not the expected thing. Right. But as you say, right, I also like to talk about how there is a way that people who do these kinds of terrible things need that charm. They need they're handsome people, and it helps them to get away with it. So it was interesting to me that there was, this thing that exists in the real world that it could point to, but also that in terms of the story, it's just fun.
And we do that, by the way. We will argue that a person that we know and has presented evidence over and over again is a certain way. We will argue against the woman
Right.
and continue to, despite our lying eyes. And and that's kind of sad because I think that why is there an inherent distrust when women say something has happened? And if you think about, I'll just look, Megan the Stallion, who I worked with on this new show, and she's a lovely young woman who works really hard and Texas and for the elderly and all these other things, and is an artist. gets shot in the foot, and people still say, no, she shot her own self in the foot. Why the fuck? She shot herself in the foot. That's her money maker. She needs her feet. That's ridiculous. But I asked her those. What'd you say?
Our emotions. So they try to undermine.
They think we lead with our emotions, so they try to undermine. Yeah, but that's not true. If you look at the history of Black women, we're the only ones that vote for the village consistently and do not lead with our emotions. We lead with common sense and pragmatism. That's a fact. Wow. So that's a straight one. And the people who know it's a lie the most are Black men who've been not only raised by us, they're side by side. The only people who are not scared of us or shouldn't be. But the amount of talk around it needs to be stopped by our warriors at the door. They're the only ones who can protect us from that kind of disgusting talk because it leaks into everything. It leaks into saying that we are that we're capable and that we have capacity. We have more than capacity and capable. We've had to, and they've lived and seen it. So the first people who should have been saying that that brother was alive was them. Nobody shoot nobody in a damn foot. Why am I upset about that? I don't know.
Hey, listen, that this is exactly
Movie
the
gets
type of conversation. Exactly, that's the type of conversations that this movie opens up for people. And I do want to touch on your character because, as a Southern girl myself, who definitely was raised in the church, I immediately could recognize the archetype of Divine, a nice, charismatic preacher who knew how to cast out a devil with the laying of the hand, as they say. I would love to know how did you. But the thing that really gets me about her is the fact that for as much as she purports herself to be a healer, she cannot heal the wounds inside herself. She cannot pinpoint the fact that she is in denial over a man who gave her false promises. And because she exists in this sort of like complicated space, how did you approach bringing her to life in a way that people could somewhat understand her plight, but also be like, girl, you're kind of losing your marbles a little bit?
Well, she didn't have to be grounded in reality. And if you know those people, you know they're not. And I know that both my parents were ministers. My father was a Kojic preacher. They're both orphans. I say I spent the first 11 years of my life in a hotel called Starlight off of Route 66 in Flagstaff, Arizona, up in the mountains. We depended on the kindness of strangers. He went around, he was an itinerant preacher. It was very difficult to do because that means you passing the plate and you're getting your salary after they take out for the pastor, the first lady, the building fund, the this, the that, and then suddenly a little envelope comes to you. And after you might have preached, weeks and weeks of revivals, it can be $60. It's very difficult, and it makes you have to be extreme. You have to heal. You have to call and cast out devils. You have to be memorable so that people talk about you. And so we've also seen them on TV. My father was a very complicated person, and complicated by the fact that he was a true orphan, very Dickensian, eating out of trash cans, all of those things. Mother complicated, all that, that type of stuff. Um, but my mother, on the other hand, is a woman of faith. Who really desires and lives by the fact that she believes in the gospel of Christ. She believes in healing. She believes in forgiveness. And they themselves were going around as a tag team. She's saying he preached. She wasn't allowed to preach because you're not allowed at the pulpit. Those types of things. And I learned the hypocrisy, but also the beauty of all of that. He was very talented, and my father was very charismatic, and she was too, but she wasn't allowed to be as such. She had to be submissive in a space that was in a place. But I'm grateful for their example, and so Divine has that in her because I grew up around. Forget the preachers, the people in the congregation would go crazy.
Right.
We remember those ladies that pass out. I mean, y'all are going down, falling out, running around the church. That's nothing. I do like though. I gotta give you props. I don't think you knew that about me, did you?
No, I didn't.
What about me made you think I could play that? All right, but it doesn't matter. I just feel like I come off as so much more of a buttercup Um, but I'm glad you did because I was really thrilled to do it, and that I respect it. It's not cartoonish to me. It's real. And she brought in. Please tell them about the choreographer of the congregation. He did this in New Orleans. You see that it's the beginning, the fatal. The catalyst, the great played by the great Vivica Fox. God sends them off into like Dorothy goes off to find her way, the two twins, and there under that bridge is old crazy divine, and she's got her flock. And you know what? Let me go back to a little bit of what you said, and then I'll end it about the fact that she was in love with this man, and she's distorted by it. And we know many women who never got over that man, and they live in a purgatory. They live their life like he's going to come back, and if I just do this, and just running it around in their head, and it really is a mental um, disorder at a certain point. She's created this and it grounds her, and I'm glad for her in a way she has that. But the sad part is when they open up that thing, you see the barber saw and the life saying she's absolutely tripping. When was she left while I was pregnant with this boy? I mean, it's nuts. But please tell them please about the choreographer because I think they get
Well, yeah, well, I had a friend of mine, his name is Raja Feather Kelly. He's choreographed things on Broadway and off Broadway, come in and choreograph the movement for her parishioners, if you want to call it, for her flock. So I had him come up with some movements, and I knew that.
early in the morning, New Orleans.
That's right, but wee hours of the morning. Like we did it all in one day. We shot it in one day. So it was top of the day, people, learning their movement, and we made it happen. He did an incredible job.
But she visualized such a wonderful thing that the power of